Dogs do things every day that seem strange to us, sitting when it rains, ignoring our calls, or even singing with sirens. But behind each habit hides a story, a message, and sometimes even a warning. Stay tuned, because today we'll uncover the truth behind 15 dog behaviors that will surprise you. 1. Your dog does these things every day, but you don't even understand the reasons and what they mean. They bark at you at nothing, guard you like a child, or even lick your face, but behind every habit lies something that can scare you. Here are 15 oddities that no vet will tell you about. First, why do they sit as soon as it starts to rain? If with the first drops of rain your dog stops and simply sits, don't be surprised. This behavior seems strange only at first glance. In reality, it has a quite logical explanation. Rain not only causes a dog to feel wet, but also sensory discomfort, especially in short-haired dogs or those with sensitive skin. Drops falling on the dog's ears, muzzle, or back can cause irritation, as if something were constantly tickling or bothering it. This can lead to a natural desire to stop and wait for it to pass. Furthermore, many dogs' caution instinct is activated. In nature, rain is often associated with a change in the environment. Smells fade, the ground becomes slippery, and it's unclear what's happening around them. For some dogs, this is a sign. They stay still, sit, watch, especially if there's no shelter nearby. Sometimes the reason is simpler. The dog simply doesn't want to walk in the rain, they're cold, wet, uncomfortable, and they communicate this in the most direct way. This behavior is more often seen in small breeds and refined house dogs accustomed to comfort. Second, why do they get excited when you sneeze? First, sneezing is often perceived by dogs as a form of attention and contact. Even if you don't directly address them, they hear a familiar sound, notice a sudden movement, and may think, "Oh, something's up. It must have something to do with me." Especially if you smile afterward, wipe your nose, or simply look in their direction. For the dog, that's already an event. Second, sneezing isn't always an alarm signal. On the contrary, dogs have their own social sneeze. It's a kind of soft exhalation through the nose that they use during play or to release tension. If your dog often hears your sneezes, they may interpret them as a harmless sound of their own and then react happily, as if to an invitation to interact. Some dogs even begin to respond to you, howling, jumping, or licking your face. It's not because they love sniffles, but because they love participating in everything that has to do with you. Third, why does the dog pretend not to hear your commands? Sometimes it seems like the dog hears everything. As soon as you open the refrigerator or pick up the leash, he's already by your side. But all you have to do is say, "Come here," or not. And suddenly, he stops paying attention to you, he simply turns away, stays still, or starts sniffing the floor with interest. It seems like he's pretending not to hear you. And in a sense, that's true. Dogs know how to respond, especially if they've already learned that the command doesn't bring anything interesting. For example, if "come here" means the end of the walk or doesn't mean banning a delicious treat, the dog may decide it's better not to hear it now. It's not stubbornness or malice, it's an associative memory that works very well. Furthermore, dogs quickly pick up on our mood. If the command is said in an irritated, tense, or lacking confidence voice, they may ignore it simply because they don't feel you're the leader at that moment. Sometimes this deafness is a way of testing boundaries. The dog observes what will happen if I don't obey. And if the reaction is weak or unclear, then it's worth trying again. So yes, the dog hears you, they just don't always consider it necessary to respond immediately. Fourth, why do they sniff a single spot on the street for 5 minutes? In reality, for them, it's not just a stain on the asphalt, but an entire portal of information. Dogs perceive the world with their noses. Every footprint, every drop, even a scent trail, contains a wealth of information. Who was here? How old are they? Male or female? Sick? Scared? For a dog, this is like reading a news feed, only with sense. Some places are especially saturated with aromas. For example, a corner, a post, or a patch of ground where other dogs regularly mark territory. Each new user adds their mark, and the dog has to decipher these layers of information like an archaeologist on a dig. Sometimes they pause longer if someone familiar or suspicious has been there. In that case, it's not just curiosity, but analysis. Is it worth leaving a response? Is there a threat? Is it necessary to mark territory? Fifth, why do they bark when someone comes to visit? In reality, barking when visitors arrive is absolutely normal behavior. At that moment, the dog is doing several things at once. First, it's letting you know that someone has arrived. It's an ancient protective instinct that sounds in your head like the pack must know someone has entered its territory. Secondly, it may be trying to protect, especially if the guest is unfamiliar or acting overly confident. Even a small dog considers itself part of the guard and doesn't understand why you calmly watch the stranger advance into your home. Sometimes barking is just excitement and excitement. The dog is happy that someone has arrived, but doesn't know how to properly express those emotions. So it barks. Not out of malice, but out of an excess of feelings. What to do? A clear ritual helps. Teach the dog that barking must be followed by a quiet, go to your place, with a reward. That way, it will understand. It's okay to bark, but discipline comes later. Sixth, why do they eat grass? Almost every owner has seen how, during a walk, their dog suddenly starts methodically nibbling grass as if it were a cow. At first glance, this may seem like strange behavior, especially if the dog is well fed and has food in the bowl. So why do they do it? The most common explanation is stomach cleansing. It's believed that dogs eat grass to make themselves vomit and get rid of something that upsets them. And yes, sometimes after eating grass, a dog vomits, but that doesn't always happen. In fact, most dogs eat it without consequence, they simply chew and continue walking. Another reason is instinct. In nature, herbivorous animals are frequent prey, and their stomachs contain plant material. Wolves, the ancestors of dogs, also obtained plants indirectly. It's possible that modern dogs have retained this inclination to consume plant fibers directly. There's also a behavioral reason. Some dogs eat grass out of boredom or to get attention, and others simply because they like the taste or texture, especially in spring when the grass is tender and juicy. It's important to remember that if your dog eats grass occasionally, with appetite and without problems, it's normal. But if it does so constantly and vomits later, it's best to consult a veterinarian. Seventh, why do they dig holes in the ground and even in the sofa? In some breeds, the tendency to dig is inherent in their character. For example, terriers or Dunderons were originally bred to work in burrows. The desire to dig is in their blood. But even common mixed-breed dogs dig without it being a sign of boredom. Sometimes it's a way of releasing tension. The dog may be excited, tired, or on the contrary, bored, and digging becomes its way of releasing energy. It doesn't want to ruin your sofa. It just needs to get its paws off urgently. It's also often a pre-sleep ritual. Many dogs arrange their bed this way, even if it's already soft. This behavior is often passed on from mother to puppies as part of a comfortable sleep. Sometimes the dog digs not out of search, but out of protest. It doesn't like something. Heat, noise, boredom, a new blanket. Digging is its way of saying, this way I'll feel more comfortable or calmer. Eighth. Why are they scared of the vacuum cleaner? For us, the vacuum cleaner is just a household appliance, noisy, but understandable. For the dog, on the other hand, it's a living being from another world that roars, buzzes, moves unpredictably, and apparently tries to eat the carpet, each time appearing suddenly. The main cause of fear is sound. The vacuum cleaner emits a loud, monotonous noise at frequencies that are especially unpleasant to canine hearing. Add to that the vibrations, the cord, the wheels, and the moving, whirring suction tube, and you have the perfect monster, that the most sensible thing to fear. The second reason is the lack of logic in its movements. The vacuum cleaner moves around the house, changes direction, and suddenly turns on and off. For the dog, it has no face, no scent, and no predictable behavior, which means it can't be read or understood. And finally, there's your reaction. If you yourself enciendes la aspiradora con tencha superscript 3 no prisa, el perro lo percibe. Piensa, si incluso tie with tilde esta es nervioso, entonces seguro que algo anda mal. Noveno. Why do dogs jerk while sleeping? Seizures? Something wrong? Actually, everything is fine. These small spasms are a normal part of sleep. Just like humans, dogs have deep sleep and REM, rapid eye movement, sleep. It is precisely during REM sleep that the brain's dream activity is activated, and the dog may relive dreams, remember a walk, a game, an encounter with you, or even chasing pigeons. Paw, tail, or twitching movements are a physiological manifestation of sleep, a kind of motor rehearsal. The brain sends weak signals to the muscles, and they react even when the body is resting. This occurs more frequently in puppies and older dogs. In them, the sleep phase is more active or less stable. And in some breeds, it happens regularly and is very noticeable. 10th. Why do they stretch? You've probably noticed it. The dog wakes up and immediately stretches. It puts its front legs forward. He lifts his rear end, sometimes with a slight bow and even a yawn. Stretching in dogs isn't just a physical exercise, it's a whole ritual that says more than it seems. First, it's actually a physical need. After sleeping, the muscles become less elastic, and the dog warms up its body before starting to move. This is especially important for active breeds. Stretching helps avoid tension and wakes up the joints. But there's also a more interesting reason. In the dog world, stretching is a social signal. This movement is similar to the play bow, the position in which a dog invites you to play. If he stretches when he meets you or runs toward you, stretching, it's not just a warm-up, it's like saying, hello, nice to see you. Stretching is also related to emotional state. After a moment of stress, anxiety, or a prolonged wait, the dog may stretch to release tension, similar to when we take a deep breath or yawn. A 10th. Why do they start singing to music or a siren? Dogs are descendants of wolves, and for wolves, howling is a means of long-distance communication. It's like a radio for the pack. I'm here. Alright, let's go. Some echoes, especially long, high-pitched, and even ones, like a siren or certain types of music, remind the dog of a howl, and it instinctively responds. The curious thing is that a dog's song isn't always just an echo. Sometimes it actually tries to join in the rhythm, choose its note, find the moment to join in. This is more like a social reaction. I participate too, I'm part of the pack. In some breeds, for example, Huskies, Malamutes, and Basset Hounds, the song is especially pronounced. They have more developed vocal habits, but even a common mixed breed dog can suddenly start singing if it hears a familiar sound that provokes a response. 12th. Why do they ask to go out and then immediately want to go home? When the dog asks to go out, but the next minute he's standing at the door with a face ready to cancel, I regret it. It's not a whim or a quirk, it's the result of mixed motives. Often, the dog asks to go out not for a walk per se, but to change the environment, check out the area, or release tension. The urge arises. You have to go out, but the reason isn't always clear, not even to him. Sometimes, when I go out, I try to break the routine. The dog feels bored at home, everyone's sitting around, nothing happening. And the street is like a refresh button. And as soon as you press that button, it's enough. Going home is more comfortable. There's another case. Expectations don't match reality. The dog wanted to go out to socialize with smells, noises, passers-by. And instead, he finds an empty street, wind, and wet asphalt. Then the typical thing happens, oh, no, that's why I went out. And sometimes, and this is real, the dog simply tests whether the door is available. Which of these behaviors does your dog show most often? Tell us in the comments, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to Feral Fables to keep discovering the most amazing secrets of the animal world.